As we approach the bus, we're looking for anything unusual, anything broken, anything hanging off, or any major leaks. Step number 2, I'm going to go in and I'm going to check for my paperwork. I'm going to make sure I have my insurance card, my registration, my fuel credit card, and then my Samsara instruction sheet. All right, now I'm going to go to the back and check my engine and my fluids. First, I'm going to dock my wheel. Checking my triangles, make sure I have 3 triangles, and my extra belts. Come on over here, Brian. All right. First thing I'm doing is checking my oil. My oil level is at a proper operating level. Check my power steering fluid. Proper operating level. Check my gearbox. Oil. Proper operating level. And check my coolant. And my coolant is full at a proper operating level. All right. I'm going to check my belts, make sure all my belts are not frayed or cracked. All right. Check my water pump. Water pump sits back here. My water pump is gear driven. I want to make sure it's not leaking. Check my power steering pump. Make sure all my bolts are in place. My power steering pump is secure to the vehicle and not leaking. Power steering pump is gear driven. Check my alternators. Make sure my alternators are secure to the vehicle and my alternators are belt driven. All right, that's everything here. Then I'm going to step back and I'm going to check all my hoses, all my electrical wires, make sure everything's intact. Look back in here and check my exhaust. Also, if I could get under the bus, I would check my frame and my drive shaft to make sure they're not bent, cracked, or broken. All the bolts are in place and all the U-bolts are in place and secured to the vehicle. All right. Checking my doors. Make sure my doors operate properly. Come around to the side over here. I'm going to check my AC compressor. Make sure my AC compressor is secure to the vehicle and I have proper operating level on my oil. I'm going to look in here and look for my air compressor, which is the unit back there with the red plaque. Make sure all the wires are secure and connected to the vehicle. Check my toilet. Make sure my dump valve is not leaking and that my toilet is not leaking. Check my batteries. Make sure my batteries are secured to the vehicle and there's no corrosion on the terminals and the terminals are tight. Come back to that. I can't get it open. All right. Now I'm going to start my engine. The first thing I'm going to check when I start my engine is my oil pressure. I have plenty of oil. Now I want to make sure my oil pump is working. I'm going to do a safe start. Safe start is my seatbelt's on. Check my seatbelt is operational. The belt is not frayed. My vehicle's in neutral. Emergency brake is on. My foot is on the brake. And I will start my vehicle. All right. Checking my oil pressure. My oil pressure came up to about 50 pounds. I'm going to turn my wheel out so I can check my brake components. And then I'm going to shut the bus off. Now I'm going to go out and do my walk around. Turn all my lights on. All right. All right, first thing I'm going to check is my tire. The front tire is minimum 4/32 of tread depth all the way across. Check my sidewalls. It's the weakest part of the tire. I want to make sure I have no cuts or bubbles on my sidewall. I'm going to check my rim, make sure my rim is not cracked or illegally welded. Check my valve stem. Make sure my valve stem is secured to the vehicle, not leaking, and there's a cap on it. Also, I want to make sure that I have a maximum of 130 psi of air pressure in my tire. Check my lug nuts. Make sure all my lug nuts are tight. And check my wheel seal. Make sure my wheel seal is not leaking. Now I'm going to check my front suspension and my brake components. Checking my brake chamber. Make sure it's secured to the vehicle. C-clamp is in place and tight. Bolts are in place. Checking my brake lines. Make sure they're secure to the vehicle and not leaking. The way my brakes work is the air compressor sends air to the brake chamber. When I step on the brake chamber pushes the air out, which moves the slack adjuster, which needs to be at a 90-degree angle with the brake chamber, which pushes the push rod onto the shoes, and the shoes make contact with either the disc or the drum. Checking my shock absorbers. Make sure they're secure to the vehicle and not leaking. Checking my airbag. Make sure my airbag's secure to the vehicle and is not losing air. Checking my luggage compartments. Make sure the doors are operational and there's no foreign objects in the luggage bay. Checking my fuel cap. Make sure my fuel cap is operational. And it is. And make sure there's no leaks coming from my fuel tank. All right, my rear wheels. Make sure there's a minimum 2/32 tread depth all the way across in the major grooves. Checking my sidewall, make sure there's no cuts or bubbles. My inflation would be 130 psi max. Checking my valve stem, make sure it's secure to the vehicle. And here, because we have dual tires, there are 2 valve stems. Make sure that they're secure to the vehicle and the caps are in place, no leaks. Checking all my lug nuts, make sure my lug nuts are tight. Checking my hub seal, my axle seal. Make sure all the nuts are in place and there's no leaks. Checking my rim. Make sure there's no cracks or illegal welds on my rim. All right, let's see if I can get this open. Thank you. That's good. That's good. All right, checking my shocks. My airbags, make sure they're not leaking, shock absorber's not leaking, and the bolts are in place. Now I'm going to check between my tires, make sure there's good space between my tires. What creates the space on these tires is it's inverted rims. All right, checking the inside tire, make sure there's 2/32 all the way across of tread depth, and it's properly inflated. Checking my splash guard, mud flap. make sure it's secured to the vehicle. Checking my tag axle, make sure I have a minimum of 2/32 all the way across. Checking the sidewall, make sure there's no cracks or bubbles. Rim has no cracks or illegal welds. Lug nuts are all tight. Maximum 130 psi of inflation, and the wheel seal's not leaking. All right. I got it. Just push that one in. All right. Checking all my marker lights all the way down the bus. Make sure they're secure to the vehicle. All the bolts are in place. They're proper color, no condensation, and operational. Checking my windows all the way down. They're not cracked. None of them are ready to fall out. And my marker lights on the top are operational, proper color, no condensation. Checking my rear lights. Sure they're all operational. 4 ways of flashing. Proper color, no condensation. Checking my reflectors. You got 1 over here and you got 2 back here. Make sure that they're proper color and are secured to the vehicle. All the bolts are in place. Checking my license plate. Make sure it's secured to the vehicle. All the bolts are in place and my license plate light is working. Checking my bumper. Make sure my bumper is secured to the vehicle. Now, for the purpose of a road test, DMV road test, they only want you to check what's different on the off-road, on the road side of the vehicle. During a proper real pre-trip, you would check every tire, every luggage bay, everything on that side as you did on this side. So let's walk up to the front and we'll check what's different on this side. So first thing I'm going to check here is to make sure I have extra fuses. All right. And I do. Extra fuses. All my wires appear to be intact. Checking my windshield washer fluid. Make sure I have windshield washer fluid. There's a sight glass here for my windshield washer fluid. Then down here, I'm going to check my steering box, which is that black component there. Make sure it's secure to the vehicle. All the bolts are in place. It's not leaking. And the hose going to it is not leaking. Also, a little further in there, I'm going to check my steering linkage. And I'm going to check the cotter pin on that castle nut to make sure it's present and not ready to fall out. If you needed to open up your front compartment for your spare tire, you would pull on this. It would drop the front component, the front bumper. And also on the older buses, when you come around front here, on the older buses you would open it like this. There's a latch here that'll drop it down. Okay? All right. Front of the bus. Can you hold this one? Front of the bus, I'm checking my mirror, make sure all the bolts are in place. Mirror is secure to the vehicle and it's not cracked. Checking my driver's window, make sure it's not cracked, secure to the vehicle. All right, checking my windshield. Make sure my windshield has no cracks and that all the rubber is in place, securing the windshield. Checking my windshield wiper. Make sure it's secured. Make sure there's no frays and it's got good pressure on the windshield. No frays, good pressure on the windshield, secure to the vehicle. Checking my lights. Make sure my lights are operational, proper color, and no condensation. Both my headlights and my signal and four-way lights. Checking my bumper. Make sure my bumper is secure to the vehicle and my license plate is secure to the vehicle. Checking this mirror. Make sure it's secure to the vehicle. All my bolts are in place and my mirror is not cracked. I'm going to walk inside, checking this reflector. Again, secure to the vehicle, proper color. All right. Again, I'm going to sit in the seat. Anytime you're in the seat, you want to have your seatbelt on. All right. I'm going to safe start my vehicle, foot on the brake, emergency brake on, bus is in neutral. All right, now first thing I'm going to do is straighten my wheels out because part of the brake test is to move the vehicle. All right, we never want to turn the fast idle or the air conditioning on while we're getting that beeping sound because the belts are loose. I'm going to start from the left and work my way over to the right. I'm going to check my mirrors, make sure my mirrors are in proper adjustment on both sides. All right. I'm going to check my windshield wipers, make sure my windshield wipers are operational, and I'm going to check my windshield washer, make sure my windshield washer is working. I got my four-way flashes on. I'm going to check my light indicators now. Four-way flashes are operational. Left turn signal, right turn signal, and high beams. Now I'm going to check all of my gauges. My temperature gauge is starting to climb. I got it's 102 degrees on the engine right now, so I know that that's working. I'm going to check my oil pressure again. It's up around 50 psi, which it should be between 20 and about 70. I'm going to check my battery. My battery should be charging above 24 volts. It's 2 batteries in there, 12 volts each, 24 volt system, which means it should be charging above 24. I got plenty of fuel. My fuel is full, and my air gauge is working. It's building up my air pressure. Check my horn. And now I'm going to check my defroster. Check my defroster all the way across. Make sure my defroster is working, and it is. And in the summertime, I would check my AC, and in the wintertime, I would check my heat. On these Prevosts, on the older models, you have a button here that you must push to get your AC. Now right now, this red light should come on any second now for the heat. In the summertime, you want to make sure that this bottom one is green in order for the AC to know that the AC is working. All right. All right. Now I'm going to check my, I'm going to do my brake test. Well, I'm going to wait for the air pressure to build up, and I'm going to do my brake test.